So welcome to today's webinar from CloudApps. Today we'll be showing you SuMo in action. So there'll be three use cases that my colleague Simon Wilden will run through. It's all about driving sales performance and effectiveness. The three particular use cases will be showing how to drive poor performing sales reps to perform like top sellers, so hence moving the middle to high performance. Secondly, we'll give you a true picture of your pipeline so you can close more deals, hence increasing sales velocity and drastically improving the forecasting to the overall business. Finally, we'll show how you can turn your sales leaders into sales coaches to improve results. I'm now going to hand over to Simon Wilden, co-founder of CloudApps, to take you through this demonstration.
Thank you very much, Andy. So whilst again we're focusing today around sales within Salesforce, this can equally be used in the area of service to drive customer satisfaction and customer success around case management, knowledge management, etc. So let's start by diving into SuMo itself within the Salesforce environment. So here we are on our home screen, and what you can first of all see is that SuMo is built natively into Salesforce. So this isn't an application that you go to or a separate application. This is built natively into the solution and allows your reps and your users of the application to get a completely integrated experience with using the solution. First thing you'll see when we're focusing on this first piece around driving the increase in performance of your poorer reps is that we're using things called gamification to drive that performance increase. So you'll see some of the examples here where we've got that in play. The first is using things like scoreboards. So here we've got a competition that's going on, and we've got things like progression bars, we've got countdown timers, we've got leaderboards, we've got level ups, those types of things, all there to drive the increased performance using the competitive nature of your salespeople. So, but what's important is that the individual is nudged actually in line with the work that they're doing rather than in a separate area. So, for example, if we were to go into a particular opportunity that we're working on, what we can see is that SuMo is providing a set of nudges, i.e. best practice behaviors, that we want that salesperson to perform next on this particular deal. And these are highly personalized nudges. They're not only personalized to, in this case, to an opportunity record, but they're also around me. So if somebody else was to log in, they may see different nudges based on the things that they should be performing around opportunities. They can also be very specific and highly personalized to this particular deal, or for example, a case whereby it's for a particular account, for example, in a particular region or a particular industry, or maybe the sales stage that the opportunity is at. So highly dynamic, highly personalized nudges. As the salesperson performs these, they will receive a certain number of points for the particular competition that it's relevant for. And they'll also then move into the area called rewards. What we're able to do here is we're able to both indicate what they should be doing through the nudges and then what they've already completed. So a kind of to-do and a done list for that individual. As they collect these points across the application and perform the right behaviors at the right time, these will all be aggregated up into an area that you saw before onto the home page. But in addition, these can be seen through the SuMo Performance Center in a single area, which is also available through the Salesforce One application on your iPad, for example, or on your phone. And here we see the same things that we were looking at earlier around the scoreboards, around the leaderboards, etc. But also I can see the list of behaviors that go right across the application. So in this particular instance, we were looking at just opportunities, but now we can see these things are actually relevant for things like activities and for leads and accounts and contacts. In fact, even custom objects within your application, for example, account plans. These can be in different languages, as we can see down here. And indeed, you can choose to allocate points to these using the gamification, or indeed you could use it just to drive best practice. So there's no sort of points awarded to this. So it might be very useful to help onboarding new people within your organization. So this pulled together along with the ability to be able to look at the cadence of these, so we can not only drive the behaviors to be performed, but we can also drive the number of behaviors that need to be performed within a certain time frame as well. And here you can see I'm well behind my lead conversion that I should be doing this particular month. And then finally, we can see the trophy cabinet. So these are the things I have done. This is the positive side of what I've been doing, and I can see how effective that is. that all summarizes up into my total score, and I can see how I'm performing against other individuals. And then we can even put these together. If I was to then go in and look from a log in, for example, as a manager, what we can do is we can then actually display these onto large display boards for you so that you can see these as an end user. So here's an example of a display board. What we can do is we can actually pull this together. And we can have, obviously, you can have personalized backgrounds and colors and fonts and icons, etc. And here we've got an example of a particular dashboard or leaderboard that's showing not just SuMo behavior, but actually any leaderboard across the application, whether this in cases around sales for top deals that have been closed this quarter. The next one is around new opportunities generated, but it could be around cases solved, knowledge articles created, etc. So these can be pulled together and then put onto large display boards around the office. So the second scenario I wanted to have a look at then was getting a true picture of your pipeline so that you can close more deals. And this is really, as Andy said, all around driving forecast accuracy. So what we want to do here is we want to be able to look at a particular opportunity, but look at it through a slightly different lens. So not just through the details that we've got about this opportunity, the classic information around, what account it's for and the probability, the amount, etc., but what's actually really been happening behind the scenes. And so what SuMo is able to do is to record all the behaviors that you've been observing behind the scenes and display those to the end user to show what insights it can see from this particular deal. And so what we see here is that this particular deal, the behaviors are broken down into 4 different categories. The first is the behaviors that are helping drive an increase in the value of that opportunity, so trying to push the deal value up. Those behaviors that are around trying to increase its win rate, so are we actually working on this opportunity with the right people, understanding competitors, that sort of thing. And then the third area is around actually driving additional opportunities around this, so other areas for upsell, cross-sell, etc. And then finally, trying to reduce the amount of time to close, so trying to get the right cadence, etc. on this deal. So we can get a lot of insight into understanding the breakdown of behaviors that are done on this opportunity. In addition to that, we can also see the people that are performing those and also the sort of volume of these types of behaviors that are being done by those individuals. So you can see this, Stephen's been putting the descriptions in, he's been adding the right contacts into it, he's been making sure the lead source is there for marketing purposes and keeping his next steps updated. Meanwhile, Clara's been there and increasing the probability, so moving the deal forward, etc. So we can see there's more than one person working on this deal, which is a good indication of a solid deal. However, we can see that all this was done very early on in the deal cycle. So here we've got most of this activity taking place in the first couple of weeks, and then it's gone very, very quiet on this deal. So whilst it was looking very positive to start with, this deal actually may be taking a turn for the worse. And so what we're able to do is to actually turn back time a little bit here. So we could look at the prospecting stage and we could see, what activities were taking place at that prospecting stage. Again, a good breakdown of those, a good cadence of those over that particular time frame. So that was all looking pretty good. And in fact, if I could even switch across and see which are the behaviors that we want them to perform at this particular stage. And so there are 5 behaviors that we want them to do, of which they've done successfully 3 of those. So what we can do then is we can move the clock forward a little bit more, and we can see at the needs analysis stage, which is the stage we're at the moment, what behaviors have taken place. And again, what we can see is only 25% of those. So there's more behaviors that we should be doing, putting next steps in, adding competitors, etc., to start increasing the win rates and the value of this particular opportunity. So here again, it's guiding me through as a salesperson the behaviors that I should be performing, which align to the best practice for your organization. But in addition to that, what I'm able to do is to get the computer to actually analyze that information, or get SuMo to analyze that information, and not only look at the sort of amount of behaviors that have been done at each stage, but also take the time into consideration. So whilst I'm doing some good things on this opportunity, which should give me a very high prediction score, it's actually a little bit lower here, down to 63, because of the fact that this deal has not been worked on for some time. So time is also having an effect on the prediction. Then what we can do is not only do that for a single opportunity, but we can start to do that at scale. So if I was going to have a look at the opportunity insight, for example, here, I can see right across my opportunities, whether they're my own opportunities, my team's opportunities, I can see all the predictions that are taking place for the ones that are closing over the next few months. And I can see which ones are being worked on effectively, aligned to our sales methodology, and which ones aren't. And this gives me another understanding and another angle to my sales forecasting accuracy that we talked about at the beginning. Okay, what I wanted to do next was then focus on this last area where we're looking to try and turn sales leaders into sales coaches. So rather than focusing on the deals, which a lot of sales leaders do, and coaching the deal, what we'd like to be able to do is help them actually coach the individuals to a higher level of success. So again, now I'm logged in as a sales manager. The sales manager has the ability to work on some one-to-one coaching plans with the salesperson. So what we see here is that Stephen is working in Sarah's team, and Stephen has a coaching plan that's set up for this particular year. And within that, Stephen has a number of groups of behaviours that we're observing. The ones that are obviously in the competitions that have been running that we saw earlier, but there's a special set of behaviours that we're interested in, which are going to be useful for coaching. And so we're going to look at those behaviours, but we're going to look at them graphically and understand in a similar way to we were looking at information around an opportunity, but this time we're going to look around an individual. And so what we're able to do is to look at how much time they're spending in these 4 areas that we chose before. So are they spending enough time trying to drive the number of opportunities into the pipeline? Are they spending enough time trying to increase the value of those opportunities, the win rates of them, and the time to close? So here we can see that breakdown, and then we can also see what percentage of those and how many they're doing that are desirable. So there's lots of creating opportunities, there's lots of follow-up that's taking place, adding lead sources, etc. But there's also some undesirable behaviours that Stephen's performing, things around pushing out the probability, so basically deals moving backwards in the sales cycle. Things like close dates being pushed out. So again, not having a handle on the actual opportunities. So here we can see the cadence of Stephen, and we can see that he's been picking up his cadence over time. But then it starts to drop off, and I would be concerned about Stephen's level of engagement within the business and his ability to be able to perform. So we really need to turn Stephen around and set a sort of a coaching plan together for him so he can perform at a higher level, similar to one of our more successful reps. We can also switch this and have a look at the sort of undesirable ones as well if we choose to. But let's go and do that comparison and see if we can get a bit more information. So we could either pick the whole team, so we could find an average across the whole team, or actually, I actually know that Ravi is performing at a high level here. We can see he's ranked number 1. And so we're going to compare Stephen against Ravi. And if we choose to, we can anonymize this information such that when we're working on a one-to-one, we don't have to refer to a particular individual. So here what we do is we've got Stephen now on the left, and we've got this high-level, this high-performing individual on the right. And we can see they have a very different profile. So whilst, as we discovered before, Stephen was spending a lot of his time at the sort of front end of the pipe, what we'll find is that this anonymous user here is actually spending a lot more time in winning deals. So whilst they've got they do bring deals in, the balance is very different in their, and that's why they're being successful. And in fact, they're pretty much doing the same volume of behaviours. So I would suggest that Ravi here is actually being working much smarter as an individual. We can also see that his cadence is much higher and continues to be highly engaged within the business. So what we're presented with is a couple of lists here. The first is a card that shows where Stephen has a higher level of performance than Ravi. So here, this is things that he's doing better than Ravi. So that's great. So let's focus on the ones where he's actually has a lower performance. What we might want to do is to pick 2 or 3 of these and create a specific coaching plan for Stephen. So we're going to pick adding competitors because we want him to really understand the competitive landscape. So we're going to pick that. We're going to make sure that he understands the account structure so that he can make sure he's talking to the right people. And we're also going to make sure that he adds products early within the opportunity so that we understand the right product mix and whether that's going to actually meet the requirements for that individual, for that opportunity. So now I've picked 3 of those. We're going to get him to focus on those. So if we go back to our coaching plan, we can now see these 3 pieces here. What we might also like him to do is to actually shadow Ravi for the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a manual objective here for him to actually shadow Ravi for the day and actually understand what Ravi's up to and how he's performing at this high level. So now I've got some behavior objectives which will be observed automatically, and some ones that are ad hoc. And to make this very simple and consumable and real time for Stephen, then that's displayed for Stephen on his Salesforce environment. So in this case, for example, on the home page or on the performance tab, so that whenever he goes into Salesforce, he can see exactly what he should be focusing on for him to be more successful. So this is about making him more successful, earning more commission, and moving on. So the three areas that we picked, we can see how well he's performing against those targets that we've set, how much time he's got left to do it. And as he performs these tasks, then these will automatically be increased. And in essence, he has his own individual performance targets for his own personal success. So that takes us through the three use cases that Andy introduced at the beginning. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, whilst these are focused on sales, then SuMo is obviously equally appropriate for the area of service as well, around case management, entitlements and SLAs and knowledge management, etc. So thank you very much for your time today. And what we'd like to do now is to open it up for questions for anybody that would like to dive in a little bit deeper in certain areas.